The boardroom felt cold as ice. 20 executives sat around the polished table, reviewing quarterly results. I was there to present the Dallas project's success, our biggest client win of the year. Everything was going smoothly until the CEO, Mr. Eddy, looked directly at me. "Kristen, before we move on," he said with a warm smile, "I want to personally thank you for your commitment to the Dallas trip. Was the $15,000 pre-approved budget enough for your expenses?" My coffee cup froze halfway to my lips. "Sorry, what money?" I blinked, confused. The room went dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Mr. Eddy's eyebrows shot up. "The $15,000 travel allowance we approved for your Dallas client trip?" I shook my head slowly. "I never received any money for that trip." That's when I noticed my boss, Axel. His face had drained of all color. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. His hands gripped the table so tight his knuckles went white. Every single person in that room turned to stare at him. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Mr. Eddy's expression shifted from confusion to concern. His jaw tightened as he leaned forward. "You didn't receive the pre-approved $15,000 travel allowance?" I shook my head again, feeling 20 pairs of eyes watching my every move. "No, sir. I paid for everything out of my own pocket." Axel finally found his voice, but it came out shaky and weak. "There must be some confusion with the accounts department," he mumbled, not meeting anyone's eyes. "You know how finance gets with their paperwork." His voice trailed off pathetically. Mr. Eddy's stare could have burned holes through steel. "Axel, my assistant, personally confirmed that payment was approved and processed through your department 3 weeks ago." Axel started fidgeting with his pen, clicking it nervously. Beads of sweat formed on his forehead despite the air conditioning. I'll look into it immediately. Must be some mix-up in the system." The CEO didn't look convinced. Neither did anyone else in that room. "Meeting adjourned," Mr. Eddy said curtly. The silence that followed was deafening. I sat in my car in the parking garage, hands trembling on the steering wheel. My mind raced, replaying every word from that meeting. Did Axel really steal company funds meant for me? Was that why I had to downgrade everything and use my personal funds? The pieces started falling into place like a horrifying puzzle. All those times Axel told me to be frugal on the trip. How he seemed surprised when I mentioned paying out of pocket. The way he dodged my questions about reimbursements. My phone buzzed with a text from my colleague Lisa. "Holy cow, what just happened in there?" Axel looked like he was about to throw up. I stared at my bank statements on my phone. The Dallas trip had cost me nearly $3,000 of my own money. Money I couldn't afford to lose. I'd been eating ramen noodles for weeks to make up for it. But $15,000? That was serious money. If Axel really took it, this wasn't just about me. This was fraud. My stomach churned as another thought hit me. How long had this been going on? I closed my eyes and let my memory drift back to 3 months ago. Axel had called me into his office with that fake smile he always wore. "Kristen, I need you to handle the Dallas client presentation," he'd said, not looking up from his computer. "It's a big opportunity. Book your travel, but keep it reasonable. You know how tight budgets are." I was excited. This was my chance to prove myself. I spent weeks preparing the perfect pitch. When it came to booking, I chose the cheapest flights, a budget motel, and planned to eat fast food. I put everything on my personal credit card because Axel said the company card wasn't available. The whole trip, I felt proud of how little I was spending. I thought I was being responsible, showing I could deliver results without breaking the bank. I slept in a tiny room with paper-thin walls, listening to trucks rumble by all night. I ate gas station sandwiches while preparing for the biggest presentation of my career. And I nailed it. The client signed a 2-year contract worth $800,000. Axel never even called to check how it was going. Back in my apartment that night, I dug through my email folder labeled expenses. 3 different submissions to Axel, all marked as urgent reimbursement needed. The first email was sent 2 weeks after I returned from Dallas. "Hi, Axel. Attached are my receipts from the Dallas trip. Total, $2,847. Please process when convenient." His response came 3 days later. "Thanks, Kristen. Finance is swamped with Q4 audits. We'll push this through ASAP." My second email, sent a month later. "Hi, Axel. Following up on Dallas expenses. My credit card payment is due soon." His reply, "Still working on it. Finance is really backed up." My third and final email sent 6 weeks ago. "Axel, I really need this reimbursement. I've already paid interest charges on my credit card." Radio silence. I felt sick reading through these emails. At the time, I believed him. I thought finance was just slow. I even felt bad for bothering him about it. Now I realize the truth. He never submitted my expenses because he'd already stolen the money. My hands shook as I screenshot every single email. The memories from my return kept flooding back. I'd walked into the office on Monday morning, tired but proud. The Dallas deal was signed, sealed, and delivered. Axel was waiting by my desk with a crowd of colleagues. "There she is," he announced loudly. "Our Dallas deal closer." Everyone clapped and congratulated me. It felt amazing. For about 5 minutes, then Axel took over the story. "Of course, this was all part of our strategic approach," he told everyone. "Kristen did great as the handshaker, but the real work was in the preparation and follow-up." Handshaker. That word stung. I'd spent months researching the client, crafting the perfect presentation, practicing every slide until I could recite it in my sleep. But to Axel, I was just the handshaker. Within an hour, Axel was in Mr. Gray, Eddie's office, taking full credit. I watched through the glass as he gestured grandly, probably describing his brilliant strategy. That afternoon, an email went out to the whole company. "Congratulations to Axel Martinez and his team for securing our largest Q3 deal." My name wasn't mentioned once. Now I understood why he was so confident taking credit. He thought I'd never find out about the money. After the meeting, I spotted Axel in the hallway by the elevators. My heart pounded as I walked toward him. He saw me coming and tried to pretend he was busy on his phone. "Axel," I called out, "we need to talk." He looked up, forcing that fake smile again. But his eyes were nervous, darting around like a trapped animal. "Oh, hey, Kristen. Great meeting today, right? What, $15,000? I asked directly. His smile faltered. "Look, let's not do this here. Too many ears, you know?" He glanced around the busy hallway. "How about we discuss this Monday? It's complicated." "Complicated how?" "There are procedures, protocols, finance stuff." His voice was getting higher. "I need to check some things first." I stared at him hard. This man I'd respected for 2 years, who I'd trusted with my career, was lying right to my face. "Monday, then," I said quietly. He nodded quickly and practically sprinted to the elevator. As the doors closed, I saw him slump against the wall. His face said everything I needed to know. He was guilty. That weekend felt like the longest of my life. I kept replaying the meeting, wondering if I was crazy. Maybe there really was some mix-up. Maybe I was overreacting. Then Sunday evening, my phone buzzed. It was my friend Rachel from operations. "Hey, saw something weird. Thought you should know." She'd attached a photo of an internal memo titled "Client Trip Disbursements, Dallas Project." My name was right there at the top. Payment approved, $15,000. Authorization, Axel Martinez. Status processed. Date, 3 weeks before my trip. The memo showed the money had been approved, processed, and distributed 6 days after my return from Dallas. While I was sending desperate emails about reimbursement, Axel already had the cash. My hands shook as I read every line. This wasn't some accounting error. This was deliberate theft. Rachel's text came through. "This was in the weekly finance report. Thought the dates looked weird since you paid for your own trip. You okay?" I wasn't okay. I was furious. For 3 months, I'd been struggling financially, while Axel spent money that was meant for me. Monday morning, I arrived early and went straight to my computer. If Axel had the company's money, there would be a paper trail. There always was. I pulled up the expense reporting system and searched for any charges under the Dallas project code during my trip dates. What I found made my stomach drop. Axel had submitted dozens of receipts: 5-star hotel stays, expensive dinners, airport lounge access, premium car rentals, even spa treatments. But here's the kicker. The dates overlapped with my trip. While I was sleeping in a $60 motel, Axel was charging $400 a night hotel rooms to my project code. One receipt caught my eye. Cartier Executive Gift, $2,847.99, the same amount as my entire out-of-pocket expenses. He'd bought a luxury watch and called it a client gift. My hands were shaking as I printed every single receipt. Pages and pages of Axel's high-end lifestyle, all charged to the Dallas project, all under my name. The math was simple. Axel had stolen $15,000 and spent it on himself while I went broke funding the actual business trip. I couldn't let the client gift claim slide. If Axel had really bought the Dallas client a $3,000 watch, there would be record of it. During lunch, I called Mr. Peterson, our Dallas client. We'd built a good rapport during the negotiations. "Kristen, great to hear from you. How's everything going with the contract implementation?" "Everything's perfect, Mr. Peterson. I was just calling to follow up on something small. Did you receive the gift package from our company after the deal was signed?" There was a pause. "Gift package? No, I don't think so. But honestly, your presentation was gift enough. We were blown away by your preparation." My heart sank. "Nothing at all? Maybe something from my manager, Axel Martinez?" "Nope, definitely not. Why should I be expecting something?" I forced a laugh. "Oh no, just checking our records. Sometimes things get lost in shipping." After hanging up, I felt sick. Axel had bought himself a $3,000 watch with company money and lied about it being a client gift. That evening, I did some digging. The receipt showed delivery to a residential address, Axel's home. The client gift was sitting on Axel's wrist. Tuesday morning, I called HR anonymously from my personal phone. I needed to understand what protections I had before making any accusations. "Hi, I have a hypothetical question about whistleblower policies." The HR representative's voice immediately became careful. "What kind of situation are we discussing?" "If an employee discovered potential fraud by their manager, what would be the proper reporting procedure?" The line went quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that chilled me. "You're not the first person to ask that question recently." My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" "I can't discuss specifics, but if you have concerns about financial irregularities, we have protections in place. You can file a confidential report through our ethics hotline." After hanging up, I sat in my car shaking. Other people had called about fraud. This wasn't just about me in Dallas. Axel had done this before. How many employees had been robbed? How much money had he stolen over the years? I thought about my coworkers who'd complained about delayed reimbursements, about mysteriously lost expense reports, about Axel's expensive suits and new car. It all made sense now. That afternoon, I reached out to Jessica, who'd left our department 6 months ago for another company. We'd stayed in touch, and I'd always wondered why she left so suddenly. "Jessica, can I ask you something confidential?" "Sure, what's up?" "Did you ever have problems with expense reimbursements when you worked with Axel?" The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. "Why are you asking?" I told her about Dallas, about the missing $15,000, about the receipts I'd found. "Oh my God," she whispered, "Kristen, he did the same thing to me." My blood ran cold. "What happened?" "There was a conference in Seattle. Company approved $3,000 for my attendance. Axel told me to pay up front and he'd reimburse me. I never saw a penny." "Did you report it?" "I tried, but Axel said there was a funding issue and that corporate had cut the training budget." I believed him. I couldn't prove anything because I didn't have access to the approval records, but now I did. "Jessica, if I can prove Axel stole from both of us, would you be willing to make a statement?" "Absolutely. That money nearly broke me. I had to borrow from my parents." I wasn't alone. Axel was a serial thief. I spent the entire weekend building an airtight case. Every email, every receipt, every piece of evidence carefully organized in a folder labeled Dallas Project Financial Discrepancies. Timeline of events, screenshots of the approval memo, Axel's fraudulent expense receipts, my unpaid reimbursement requests, the client's confirmation that no gift was sent. I even found records showing Axel had booked hotel rooms in Dallas on the same dates I was there. While I slept in a motel, he was living it up at the Ritz-Carlton on company money. The evidence was overwhelming. Axel had stolen $15,000, lied about it for months, and tried to cover his tracks by denying my legitimate reimbursements. But I needed more than just evidence. I needed someone with power to care. Sunday night, I made a decision that terrified me. I drafted an email to Mr. Eddy's assistant, Miss Cleland. She'd always been kind to me, and I'd heard she had the CEO's ear. "Miss Cleland, I have some financial documentation related to the Dallas project that Mr. Eddy might want to review. Nothing urgent, but some discrepancies that should be clarified." I attached the entire folder. No accusations, no drama. Just facts. Monday morning, my phone rang at 7:30 a.m. It was Miss Cleland. Kristen, I reviewed the documentation you sent. This is concerning. My heart hammered. I just thought someone should know. Off the record, she said quietly, Mr. Eddy was already suspicious after Friday's meeting. Axel's reaction was telling. I held my breath. The CEO wants to handle this properly. Expect some activity this week. What kind of activity? The kind that gets to the truth. Stay professional. Keep doing your job and let us handle the investigation. After hanging up, I felt a mix of relief and terror. I'd crossed the point of no return. Either I was about to see justice served, or I'd just destroyed my career. But looking at my bank account, remembering those nights eating ramen noodles, thinking about Jessica's stolen conference money, I knew I'd made the right choice. Axel's house of cards was about to collapse. An hour later, I got an email from finance. All client trip reimbursements are being audited for Q3 compliance. The investigation had begun. 15 by Tuesday afternoon, the entire office was buzzing. Word had leaked that finance was conducting a comprehensive audit of all travel expenses. People were panicking, frantically checking their receipts and reimbursement records. But the person panicking most was Axel. He called in sick Monday, then Tuesday. By Wednesday, people were asking questions. Where's Axel? Is he okay? Did you hear about the audit? I watched colleagues scurrying around, worried about minor expense violations. Late lunch receipts, missing hotel confirmations, small overages that might get them in trouble. They had no idea what was really happening. Rachel from operations pulled me aside. Kristen, I heard Axel's been asking finance to clarify some coding errors on several projects, not just Dallas. My stomach dropped. How deep did this go? Which projects? Seattle Conference, Austin Trade Show, that Phoenix client dinner series, all trips where he managed the budgets. I thought about Jessica's Seattle conference, about other colleagues who'd complained about reimbursement delays, about how Axel always volunteered to handle the paperwork for big trips. This wasn't a one-time theft. This was a systematic operation. Thursday morning, I was at my desk when I saw Axel's car pull into the parking lot. He'd been sick for 3 days, but here he was, walking toward the building like a man heading to his execution. I watched through the office windows as he made his way to the elevator. His usual confident stride was gone. He moved like every step hurt. 15 minutes later, Miss Cleland appeared at Axel's office door. Axel? Mr. Eddy would like to see you. I pretended to work while watching Axel gather his things. His hands were shaking as he picked up his phone and notebook. The walk to the CEO's office felt like a funeral march. I could see them through the glass conference room. Mr. Eddy, someone from legal, the finance director, and Axel. Axel was doing a lot of talking, gesturing frantically. Mr. Eddy mostly listened, occasionally asking questions that made Axel shift uncomfortably in his chair. 20 minutes later, Axel stormed out of the room. His face was red, his tie was crooked, and he looked ready to punch someone. He didn't come back to his office. He just kept walking, straight to the elevator and out of the building. Friday morning, I got called to the big conference room. Mr. Eddy was there with legal and HR, the same room where this whole mess had started just 1 week ago. Kristen, please sit down, Mr. Eddy said gently. We have some questions about the Dallas project expenses. I'd prepared for this moment all week. Of course, the legal representative opened a file. We've reviewed the financial records you provided. They raise serious questions about expense management in your department. We need to understand, HR added, why you didn't report these discrepancies sooner. I took a deep breath. Because I didn't know about the $15,000 until you mentioned it in the meeting. I thought finance was just slow with my reimbursement. I trusted my manager. Mr. Eddy leaned forward. Kristen, you paid nearly $3,000 out of pocket for a company trip. Yes, sir. I kept the receipts, hoping for eventual reimbursement. And during this time, you never suspected Axel was misusing funds? Not until I saw the expense reports showing he was charging luxury accommodations to my project code while I was sleeping in a motel. The room was quiet for a moment. Why didn't you come to us sooner? HR asked again. I looked her straight in the eye, because I didn't know there was anything to report until Axel exposed himself. The following Monday, I checked my bank account and nearly dropped my phone. A deposit had appeared overnight, $15,000. The description read, Travel Reimbursement, Dallas Project, Rectification. No apology, no explanation, just the money that should have been mine 3 months ago. But they'd also added something I hadn't expected, interest. The total deposit was $15,247. I screenshot the transaction immediately. This was proof that the company acknowledged Axel had stolen from me. An hour later, I got an email from payroll. Please confirm receipt of expense rectification deposit. Reply to this email with confirmation. I replied, confirmed, thank you. But inside, I was seething. $15,000 had been sitting in Axel's pocket while I'd been struggling to pay rent. While I'd been eating ramen noodles and putting gas on credit cards. The money helped, but it didn't erase 3 months of financial stress. It didn't undo the nights I'd stayed awake worrying about bills. Still, seeing that deposit felt like the first real victory. The company was finally acknowledging what Axel had done. By Tuesday, the office atmosphere had completely changed. People weren't just whispering anymore, they were staring at me. Word had somehow leaked that I was connected to the audit. Colleagues approached me carefully, like I might explode. Kristen, I heard you're the one who caught the expense fraud? Is it true Axel was stealing money? Did you really have to pay for Dallas yourself? But more importantly, other people started coming forward. John from sales pulled me aside. Kristen, I think Axel did something similar to me. Last year's Chicago trade show. He said my expenses were under review for 6 months. Jennifer from marketing. The Phoenix client dinners. I never got reimbursed, and Axel said the client had disputed the charges. David from IT. That Austin conference. Axel said corporate decided it was non-essential after I'd already attended. 3 more people. 3 more victims. The same pattern every time. Axel managed the budget, employees paid up front, reimbursements never came. I felt sick thinking about how many people Axel had robbed over the years. Wednesday morning, the email everyone had been expecting finally arrived. Effective immediately, Axel Martinez, Senior Strategy Lead, has been placed on administrative leave pending completion of an internal investigation. The email was cold, clinical, corporate. But everyone knew what it meant. Axel was done. I watched colleagues read the email, their faces showing a mix of shock, satisfaction, and worry. Some people had genuinely liked Axel. Others were just scared about what this meant for the department. My phone buzzed with texts. Holy shit, they actually suspended him. Do you think he's getting fired? What happens to our team now? But the text that meant the most came from Jessica. Saw the news. Finally. Thank you for having the courage I didn't have. I realized this wasn't just about me anymore. By speaking up, I'd given a voice to everyone Axel had stolen from. For the first time in months, I felt truly proud of something I'd done. Friday afternoon, I got a calendar invite that made my heart race. Career discussion, conference room A, 3 p.m. I spent the entire day wondering what this meant. Was I in trouble? Were they promoting me? Firing me for causing problems? At 3 p.m. sharp, I walked into the same conference room where this whole saga had started 2 weeks ago. Mr. Eddy was there, along with the head of HR and the VP of strategy. Kristen, please sit, Mr. Eddy said with a genuine smile. We want to discuss your future here. My heart pounded. You handled this situation with remarkable professionalism and integrity, the VP continued. We've been discussing how to restructure the strategy department, and we'd like you to consider a leadership role. I blinked. What kind of leadership role? We're creating a new position, Director of Strategic Operations. You'd lead a team of 5, manage client relationships, and oversee all department finances directly. Mr. Eddy leaned forward. The Dallas deal proved you can handle high-stakes client work. Your response to this crisis proved you can handle difficult situations with grace. We want you to rebuild the department the right way, HR added. I stared at them, speechless. You want me to take Axel's job? We want you to do the job Axel should have been doing. The promotion came with Axel's old office, but I spent the first week completely redecorating. New furniture, new layout, new energy. I wasn't going to sit in the space where he'd planned his thefts. My first official act as director was implementing a new expense policy. All travel reimbursements must be processed directly through finance within 48 hours of submission. No manager may hold, delay, or redirect employee expense reports for any reason. I called it the transparency protocol. During my first team meeting, I addressed the elephant in the room. I know this transition has been difficult. We're starting fresh. No one will be denied reimbursements, no one will be blamed for others' mistakes, and no one will be afraid to speak up about problems. John raised his hand. What about those of us who lost money because of the previous situation? File reports with HR. Every case will be reviewed and addressed. Jennifer asked, how do we move forward from this? I looked around the room at colleagues who'd been hurt, confused, and scared. We build something better. We prove that integrity matters more than politics. By the end of the week, 3 more people had filed expense fraud reports against Axel. The company was writing checks to make victims whole. 3 weeks later, the inevitable email arrived. Axel Martinez has submitted his resignation, effective immediately. I almost laughed. Axel was trying to resign before they could fire him. Nice try. But an hour later, another email followed. The resignation of Axel Martinez has been rejected. Mr. Martinez has been terminated for violation of company ethics policies and financial misconduct. The second email was brutal but necessary. Axel couldn't escape with his reputation intact. He'd been caught, investigated, and fired for cause. His departure was nothing like the farewell parties we usually threw. No cake, no speeches, no LinkedIn posts celebrating his next adventure. Security escorted him out on a Tuesday morning. I watched through my office window as he carried a small box to his car. 2 years of stolen money, and all he had to show for it was a cardboard box of personal items. No one came to say goodbye. As his car pulled out of the parking lot, I felt a mix of satisfaction and sadness. Satisfaction that justice had been served. Sadness that it had taken so long and hurt so many people. But mostly, I felt relief. The nightmare was over. 6 months later, I was settling into my new role when I got an unexpected email. The subject line made my blood run cold. No hard feelings? It was from Axel. Kristen, I hope you're doing well in your new position. I wanted to reach out and clear the air. I know things got complicated with the Dallas situation, but I hope we can move past it. No hard feelings on my end. Maybe we can grab coffee sometime and talk about the good old days. I stared at the email in disbelief. Good old days? He'd stolen from me, lied to my face, and destroyed his career through fraud. And he wanted to grab coffee? I showed the email to my assistant. Should I respond? She looked horrified. Absolutely not. That man has some nerve. I deleted the email without responding. Later that day, I walked past my old desk to the conference room where I'd first learned about the stolen money. On the wall, I'd hung the signed Dallas contract in a simple black frame. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder. A reminder that truth takes time, but it always comes to light. A reminder that integrity matters more than politics. A reminder that sometimes the best revenge is simply letting the light shine. Today, a year later, I lead a team of 8 in the strategy department. We've signed 12 major deals, implemented transparent financial processes, and created an environment where people feel safe speaking up. The transparency protocol I created has been adopted company-wide. No employee has to fear their manager stealing their reimbursements ever again. Jessica got a settlement from the company for her stolen Seattle expenses. John recovered his Chicago money. Jennifer was compensated for Phoenix. In total, Axel had stolen over $75,000 from employees over 3 years. The Dallas contract still hangs on my wall, but I've added something new beside it. A photo from our team's recent success dinner. 8 colleagues celebrating honest work and mutual respect. Sometimes I think about Axel's email asking for no hard feelings. The truth is, I don't have hard feelings. I don't hate him or wish him harm. I just don't think about him at all. Because here's what I learned. I never needed revenge. I just needed sunlight. When you bring the truth into the light, it has a way of solving everything else. And sometimes, the best victory is not just getting justice, it's building something better in the aftermath. Something honest, something transparent, something worth being proud of. The truth took time, but it always comes.